Hello. In this module, we will connect the concept of brain plasticity with a model of learning phases and teaching strategies based on ecological theories. These theories involve a dynamic approach requiring coaches to apply them to movement problems and their subsequent solutions to ensure that transfer to competition is guaranteed and never taken for granted. Let's begin with brain plasticity. Brain plasticity refers to the brain's ability to reorganize itself both structurally and functionally in response to experiences, learning, and injuries. This ability is primarily due to synaptic flexibility, the capacity of connections between neurons, synapses, to strengthen or weaken based on neuronal activity. Recent research has shown that the brain is much more malleable than previously thought, even in older individuals. This plasticity can occur at different levels: microscopic changes such as adjustments in synapses, macroscopic reorganizations involving entire brain regions. Understanding this dynamic capacity of the brain provides a foundation for leveraging learning and training strategies that take advantage of its adaptability, paving the way for continuous improvement and recovery at any age. Young people are particularly receptive to brain plasticity due to the intense neuronal activity associated with cognitive and emotional development. During childhood and adolescence, the brain is constantly forming new connections and refining neural circuits in response to experiences and learning. Targeted activities during periods of heightened brain plasticity can shape and optimize neural networks, fostering skill development and overall growth. For example, several studies have shown that young musicians who practice regularly exhibit structural differences in brain regions associated with auditory and motor processing compared to those who do not practice music. These differences suggest that intensive musical practice can lead to long-lasting changes in brain structure, enhancing skills such as memory, attention, and motor coordination. An important clue about what extracurricular activities we might recommend to our golf students. While brain plasticity diminishes with age, it remains an active process throughout life. In older adults, brain plasticity plays a critical role in their ability to adapt to cognitive changes associated with aging and in recovery after brain injuries. This highlights the enduring potential for learning and adaptation at any stage of life, emphasizing the importance of engaging in activities that stimulate the brain and encourage growth. A notable example of brain plasticity in older adults is the impact of physical exercise on brain health. Numerous studies have shown that regular exercise, particularly aerobic exercise like playing golf, can promote the growth of new neurons and synapses and improve cognitive function in older adults. However, it is also important to recognize the challenges that brain plasticity faces in later life. With aging, the brain becomes more vulnerable to neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, which can interfere with plasticity and lead to significant cognitive decline. This highlights the importance of proactive engagement in activities that stimulate both the body and the mind, promoting resilience and adaptability. Although brain plasticity can help compensate for some of these effects, prevention and early treatment remain essential for maintaining brain health in old age, a topic we will explore in the upcoming chapters. When it comes to sports performance, brain plasticity also plays a crucial role by enabling athletes to adapt and improve their skills over time. Let's look at some examples. The repeated practice of specific motor skills, such as striking a golf ball, leads to changes in the brain regions responsible for fine psychomotor control. Over time, these neural adaptations result in improvements in precision, speed, and movement coordination, which translate into better athletic performance. This example demonstrates how brain plasticity serves as a cornerstone for athletic development, supporting both the physical and cognitive dimensions of high-level performance. This capacity for tactical adaptation is grounded in brain plasticity, as it involves the formation of new neural connections and the reorganization of brain circuits. Brain plasticity also plays a crucial role in developing mental resilience in athletes. Through practice and exposure to high-stress situations, such as intense competitions, athletes can strengthen their brain's ability to regulate emotions, maintain focus, and make quick, accurate decisions under pressure. This is why we emphasize that the best training is competition, as it exposes golfers to real game contexts. Brain plasticity also significantly influences injury recovery. In the event of sports injuries, brain plasticity enables athletes to recover and return to their previous performance level. During rehabilitation, the brain can reorganize its neural connections to compensate for damaged areas and regain lost function. This process is facilitated by the repeated practice of rehabilitation exercises that stimulate brain plasticity and promote functional recovery. These examples underscore the importance of understanding and leveraging brain plasticity to enhance not only athletic performance but also mental fortitude and physical recovery, ensuring that athletes are equipped to perform at their best and overcome challenges effectively. And finally, adaptation to new sports disciplines. Athletes who take up new sports disciplines can leverage brain plasticity to quickly learn the necessary skills. Through consistent practice and exposure to new challenges, the brain can adapt and develop the neural connections required to master the new sporting discipline. This is the reason behind the famous phrase, first the athlete, then the golfer. This phrase emphasizes that in early ages, multi-sport practice is essential for well-rounded development. In summary, brain plasticity is essential both in combating aging and enhancing athletic performance, as it enables people of all ages to adapt, learn, and improve over time. By understanding and harnessing this phenomenon, older individuals and athletes alike can optimize their training, overcome obstacles, and reach their full potential. Let's now explore a model of learning phases where brain plasticity plays a vital role in each stage. The process of learning perceptual motor habits develops in three distinct phases. The cognitive phase. In this initial phase, the player lacks the theoretical knowledge required to conceptually solve problems. Therefore, they rely on clear instructions to understand and execute the movements needed to address these challenges. For example, in this phase, it is essential to grasp the physical laws that affect the ball's flight and to have basic knowledge of biomechanics and efficiency in striking. This foundational understanding allows the player to begin developing effective and repeatable movements. The associative phase. In this intermediate stage, the player begins solving problems by associating previously received instructions with past experiences. The quality and quantity of training are critical during this phase, as well as the opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them. This stage emphasizes the individual search for solutions, supported by occasional instruction to confirm or correct approaches. On-course games that encourage errors and reflection are essential, as they help players internalize concepts and develop adaptability. This phase is where experimentation and guided autonomy play a significant role in skill refinement. The autonomous phase. The final phase is characterized by the automation of correct motor responses, with minimal need for cognitive control. At this stage, the brain automatically implements a series of condition action rules, allowing the player to perform skills seamlessly and with high efficiency. This phase reflects mastery, where movements and decisions are executed instinctively, freeing cognitive resources for strategic thinking and adaptability in more complex scenarios. In fact, the difference between amateur and expert golfers lies in how they access action rules. Amateurs need to rely on memory, where these rules are stored or should be, while experts, having automated them, typically do not require working memory. This frees up their attention for more useful tasks, such as strategizing or visualizing the shot. To meet the needs of each phase of learning, it is essential to provide appropriate theoretical instruction and design training sessions that promote progression between phases. It is crucial for golfers to train in conditions similar to competition, as the brain establishes connections between training experiences and the emotions associated with them. While it is challenging to fully replicate the emotions of competition, the goal of training should be to approximate them. This is because the brain tends to associate experiences with emotions such as fear, anxiety, joy, or frustration. Training under such conditions helps players manage these emotions more effectively during actual competition, building both mental resilience and consistency in performance. Therefore, during the learning process, it is important to encourage the generation of these emotions to create stronger associations with competition performance. As we discussed earlier regarding memory, this also enhances the registration phase of memories, improving recall during competitive scenarios. This leads us to a concept introduced earlier: the difference between linear training and dynamic or contextual training. Let's explore this distinction before moving on to player evaluation and the design of cognitive training and stimulation programs. In relation to ecological theories, let's address the differences between the two types of training, but first, let's examine the distinction between repetition and automation. Repetition, associated with linear training, involves performing the same action in the same way every time. Repetition, rooted in the traditional body-as-machine approach, is based on the idea that performing a high volume of identical repetitions will consolidate a movement, in this case, the golf swing. On the other hand, automation is linked to a dynamic training approach that places the player in a real context, requiring them to find solutions to the challenges they encounter. In industrialized teaching methods, a linear training approach typically prevails. Golfers practice on the driving range, hitting ball after ball from a static position on a flat, cushioned surface, free from distractions that could divert their attention. While this type of training has its place, the true value and progression in golf lie in contextual training, playing on the course through real games and competition, where the player must continuously adapt to varying conditions such as slopes, grass types, and obstacles. When the player interacts with the real context, including other players in small competitions or challenges, they face problems and emotions similar to those in actual tournaments. This experience develops superior reasoning ability to solve on course challenges, improved emotional management during competitions. This contextual approach forces the player to find specific solutions to problems, even if those solutions deviate from the so called perfect swing or optimal biomechanics. It is highly beneficial for players to explore their own solutions during training and then be guided by a coach toward the best option. This process fosters conscious competence, a critical stage in developing intuition and unconscious competence. By striking a balance between guided instruction and self driven discovery, players can achieve long term mastery while building adaptability and resilience. This training approach ensures they are prepared for the unpredictability and demands of real world competition. This last point refers to the four phases of learning described in Martin M. Broadwell's article, Teaching for Learning. The four stages suggest that initially individuals are unaware of how much they don't know, or they are unconsciously incompetent. As they recognize their incompetence, they consciously acquire a skill and then use it deliberately. Over time, the skill can be used without needing conscious thought, achieving unconscious competence. Let's be radically honest about high performance athletes. Many of them are not easily cooperative when we try to help them improve their reasoning. In fact, if we openly and rationally emphasize their reasoning errors, even without any intention of criticism and solely with the aim of helping, their ego and emotional side often take offense intensely. This reaction frequently leads to resistance and rejection, creating a mental block that hinders progress. It is infinitely more intelligent and productive to establish appropriate contextual training and wait for the athlete to come to you with questions. The success of effective training lies in modifying options and parameters, altering the cues the environment provides to an athlete. While we cannot dictate what an athlete should do, we can shape the practice environment in such a way that some opportunities never arise, while others become evident. The goal is to introduce constraints in the practice environment that challenge or destabilize the athlete's existing thought patterns, encouraging them to explore new possibilities and think differently. To emphasize this concept, let me take the reader back to a time when golf courses often didn't even have driving ranges. Back then, all training was conducted in context, directly on the course. This naturally compelled players to develop their skills in realistic environments, solving problems in real time and adapting to changing conditions. This historical context underscores the importance of contextual training in fostering adaptability, creativity, and strategic thinking in modern athletes. Let's transport ourselves to that era, the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and revisit the wise words of Harry Vardon, six-time winner of the British Open, as expressed in his famous book, The Complete Golfer. Don't play too much golf if you want to improve your game. 3 rounds a day are too much for any man, 2 rounds a day are enough, and these 2 rounds for 3 days a week are all the golf that is good for any player who doesn't want to become careless and dull. Let's interpret this correctly. He isn't talking about hitting balls on the range or practicing anything off the course. He's saying that 2 rounds a day, 3 days a week are sufficient. As you see, according to Harry Vardon, 36 holes a day, 3 days a week could be enough. And he doesn't say this to increase the number of holes played, but rather because the great players of his time were practicing as much as 54 holes a day for more than 3 days a week. While this is not the place to defend his words, it is worth noting that his perspective offers insight into what should be prioritized when designing training programs. In the context of distinguishing training models, it's also important to understand the difference between blocked practice and random practice. Blocked practice involves dividing a training session into clearly identifiable blocks of exercises. For example, 1 hour of hitting balls on the range, focusing solely on draw shots, 15 minutes of repetitive chipping with a specific technique, 15 minutes of long putts. This structured approach contrasts sharply with random practice, which we'll explore further. In contrast, random practice might involve 1 hour on the driving range, hitting balls from various lies and slopes using different clubs and executing varied ball flights. The player must calculate distances and adhere to pre-shot routines. 30 minutes of short game practice where the player chips a single ball from different distances and situations onto the green and then putts it. The player keeps track of how many times they achieve chip and one putt versus chip and two putt outcomes. Which type of training do you think demands greater cognitive engagement? What is particularly interesting about these effects of practice order is the sense of fluency and the apparent feeling of learning experienced by individuals practicing under repetitive conditions. The rapid progress observed during blocked practice gives the impression that learning is occurring, which often leaves the student feeling satisfied and eager to return for more lessons. In fact, when players who practice under blocked training conditions are asked how well they expect to perform in the future, they typically express optimism until they eventually face the harsh reality of competition. While an athlete may prefer and feel more confident when a coach uses isolated, repetitive practice drills and prescriptive instructions that tell them exactly what to do, research clearly demonstrates that these are not the best conditions for real learning or transfer to competition. Instead, training approaches that challenge the player in varied and contextual ways are far more effective for developing skills that translate to real-world performance. Having reviewed the above, we are now ready to delve into the world of neuropsychological assessment tests. See you in the next lesson. For more information about our Level 1 certification, please visit www.cognitivegrowth.pro. Let's get started. Grow is a mental calculation training software specifically designed for golfers. It helps players develop faster and more accurate decision-making by training distance calculations, slopes, safety margins, and other key skills required on the golf course. Regular use can improve both confidence and performance under pressure. Best of all, it is completely free to use and can be accessed at www.cognitivegrowth.pro.